clicking this button. Boom. I think we're live. We are live. Hello. If
Yes.
anyone is watching, but I'm sure many of you would be watching afterwards. So hello to everyone. Thank you for watching on the channel here. I truly appreciate every single one of you. You could be doing whatever, it is. You could be making green beans or something, but you showed up here watching this video. So I appreciate you. And I pray that the Lord will make his face to shine upon you. I'm hanging out with the maestro himself, Todd Collins. Todd Collins is and this is actually the first live stream on my channel. I've been on YouTube off and on since 2006, actually. And I didn't take it seriously until 2000, it was around 9 or 10. And then I took a 5 or 6, 7 year break and then started taking it seriously back in 2018. This is the first actual live. And guys like Todd Collins, I love to do stuff about guys like Todd Collins, just like I did that Sade video that I did. If any of you have seen that, where I was talking about the smooth operator conga video, because I think that's Mark Ditcham from England. And guys like that, you hear the Giovanni Hidalgos, the masters, the Francisco Aguabeas, the Tata Guinness, the Pedrito Martinez. But then there's a lot of guys in the pop world, and you have the Luis Conte, definitely, my man, and Richie Gajate. But there's a lot. Lenny Castro, Toto, yes, dude, and everybody else. I love Lenny Castro. But there's a lot of guys, even like yourself, that that a lot of people may not know that they're listening to on certain albums, or they may have heard before. And you're working out of Nashville, you've toured, you've done a lot of other things. And so for me, I love the discovery and the rediscovery, if you will. So, but anyways, man, I just want to learn a little bit more about you, Todd. For those of you that may not know, I don't know if you got your start with Toby Mac and your friends, the colleagues with Goatee Records, but I know you've done a lot out of Nashville. You've recorded and helped start Goatee Records, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so,
that's correct.
Everything from the Katinas to Jennifer Knapp to KJ52, a lot of great Christian artists in the CCM world, and even the Christian hip hop world, like Grits, other artists. And then recently, a couple years ago, you did the CMT Awards. And, I actually pulled up a video and saw you playing with Kelly Klarkson.
Yeah. So I do quite a bit of stuff with Kelly, actually. Yeah.
Do you really?
And I'll tell you the story. Yeah, I'll tell you a story about all that stuff too. Yeah.
Okay. So right before we came on, we were talking about Todd's background, and this is what I'm really fascinated by, is just learning a little bit more about your background. You said in school you actually minored in Afro-Cuban and West African, or just Afro-Cuban percussion?
Afro-Cuban, yes.
Afro-Cuban. Okay. So tell me a little bit about that, your background.
Well, I'll try not to make this too small. First of all, it is an absolute honor, a pleasure, and a joy to, first of all, meet you face to face. Secondly, to be your first guest on your streaming channel, whatever it is. And hopefully, if nobody's watching, we'll still have a good time and they can watch it later, right?
Yeah.
So in 1985, a long time ago, that sounds so long ago, geez. 1985, I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
I was doing really well. I was an all-state basketball player, and I got recruited to a bunch of we were a nationally ranked team in high school. So I was not even the best player on my team. I was like the third best player on my team. So all five of us, we got complete full rides to play basketball at the next level, NCAA level.
Okay.
I was being recruited by Baylor, SMU, Air Force Academy. I almost signed with the Air Force Academy.
Wow.
Just smaller at the time, smaller Division Ones. Baylor obviously is not small at all anymore. They just won the whole thing. But
yeah.
At the time, they were going through really tough. University of Southern Mississippi was another one. I would have been there. If I had signed with them, I would have been there with Brett Favre at the time. So so anyway, I ended up, because I wanted to play, but I didn't want to sit on a Division I team. I
Mhm.
wanted to play. So I decided, and I didn't get recruited by Florida teams, and that's where I grew up, and that's where my family was. So I wanted to go to a Florida school. So I ended up going to a Division II school called Barry University
Okay.
down in Miami. Now, also growing up, my father he was a music pastor. That's what they call it. Back then, they called them music ministers.
Music ministry.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, now they call them, they're just the music pastor or the worship pastor.
Worship pastor. Yep.
He was our worship pastor. That was his career, and so I grew up playing and singing in church, all through church, and that was just what I did. If I had to fill in for somebody, I filled in. I was mostly the drummer. But then if bass player didn't show up, I'd fill in on bass, bass guitar or whatever. Anyway, so I got a scholarship to play ball. Went to play 4 years, Barry University, playing basketball. And what I did was, to stay eligible to play basketball, you have to have a certain GPA. It's a little bit like high school. So I thought, you know what? I want to have fun. I do want to concentrate on my career basketball wise, and it was a good one. And so I minored in music because it was easy. So theory always came easy, just performance always came easy and stuff. So I minored in music,
Okay.
um, to help keep my GPA high, because I knew every music class I could get A's in, and that would boost my GPA.
So
And
did
so
you
that's really
what instrument were you playing? Did you play like piano or something?
in you talking about in college in music.
Or just growing up? Because you said you chose the minor in music because it came easy. Were you playing an instrument?
Right. Well, I do play a little bit of keyboards, enough to be dangerous, but it was bass,
Okay.
bass guitar, and drums, primarily drums. I was always fascinated with the beat and the foundation of songs, which included bass and drums.
Okay.
And but I was always really good at music theory and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I and then being in Miami,
Mhm.
once I moved to Miami, I started becoming very intrigued. In my spare time, I became very intrigued with all the Cuban stuff, the Cuban music, and the Cuban influence music, because it's everywhere in Miami,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything is percussive. Everything is beat driven, and so I loved it, and that's how I funneled into that's kind of how I funneled into becoming a percussionist instead of a drummer, because there's just massive amounts of drummers out there, and
Yeah.
tons that are tons better than me to this day. And I still play drums, but I always tell people that I'm a percussionist that happens to play drums, not a drummer that plays percussion.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, and then after school, I had a friend in church growing up that ended up playing. Have you ever heard of a group? You probably heard of these guys. You heard of a group called Truth?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, there was a guy that one of my best friends growing up played piano for Truth, and he
Okay.
did the whole Truth circuit for a couple of years. Then he went on to move to Nashville and started producing records in Nashville. And after I graduated, I was going to become a college coach. I was going to start my master's degree and become a graduate assistant coach and move
Okay.
my way up in those ranks. He said, "Man, why don't you come up to Nashville? I'd never been to Nashville before. Come up to Nashville and visit and just hang out. And then you can go back and start your master's degree in the summertime." I was like, "All right, cool."
Right.
So I came up to Nashville, and I stayed with his house, and he was working on a record for Star Song Records
Okay.
back in 1989.
Wow.
And I ended up singing and did a bunch of programming for that record. And he was like, "Dude, you need to move up here. We could work together. You could make money in this business." I was like, "Okay, okay." And so a week later, I went back to Miami, grabbed my stuff, and I moved to Nashville, and everything started kind of falling into place, to be honest with you. You know,
Wow. Man. Dude.
I met the first week I was here, I met Toby
Okay.
and started working with Toby. We started working on the New Thing record.
Was he already
Um,
done? Was he already out of college? I'm thinking about
yes,
timeline here. Okay.
yes, yeah. He had gotten there probably late part of '88.
Okay.
I got there in '80. I got to Nashville in '89.
Okay.
He went to Liberty, and oddly enough, I took a college visit to Liberty to play basketball, and I would have been there when they were there, when
Wow.
Toby, Mike, and Kevin were there. but anyway, I met him that first week and we hit it off. He liked the fact that I was a programmer and then I had this MPC 60 and we
It's a big
started
deal
working
back
on,
then, man.
yeah, 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 that was a big deal. I was one of few that had one of those.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and so we started working on the New Thing record and that just kind of, that was the kind of the beginning of everything just kind of escalating, you know? I
Wow.
was just honestly, William, I just kind of started riding a wave.
Yeah, yeah.
I got lucky and blessed and I met the right people at the right time. And that's kind of how it fell into place, you know?
So how did you, in those early years, you said programming, and I know you helped produce a lot of it. What did that look like for you? As far as, I'm always curious what that means for different people. It means
Yeah.
different things, right? So what did that mean in
Yeah.
those early years, as far as you as a percussionist and using your MPC player and then producing? What were you doing exactly?
Everything but percussion. I mean,
Really?
you know, percussion, yeah, percussion ended up being the last thing that we would add on
Okay.
stuff. And probably because it was the thing that came the easiest,
Okay.
but but because my dad was a worship pastor growing up, I grew up with learning how to arrange vocals and in certain keys and you know all that stuff. And so that was always intriguing. It's like for example, some of my favorite records growing up are some of the things by Manhattan Transfer and Al
Okay.
Jarreau and
Okay.
you know jazz vocal arranging type stuff. And so we did a lot of that. I did a lot of that. So I, you know, not only would I was the guy that was I was the guy that was the organized guy. You know,
Okay.
I would organize the studio and I would call the players. And the thing is I never, I always looked at producing kind of like I looked at my idol, Quincy Jones.
Okay.
Quincy Jones is a relationships guy and he knows the right person to put in the right situation. I
Right.
always was very intrigued by that and I liked that, you know.
Yeah.
So I never wanted to be the drummer on our records. I never wanted to be the bass player on our records. I wanted to get guys that were better than me. And I wanted to sit on the other side of the glass and be like, okay, we like that, but do this, you
Right.
know.
Right. Right. You were painting.
I was
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
I was always the big picture guy. You know, I always wanted to help paint the picture. Exactly.
Gotcha.
And so that's how I got into producing was basically because I was a vocal arranger and I knew how to get people to sing well. Does that make sense? You know?
Oh, no, that makes
And
perfect sense. Yeah.
you know, and when it was time to go to the piano, okay, let's sit at the piano, let's figure out, okay, we're in C minor, let's figure, okay, do we want to go the augmented fifth or do you want to
Yeah.
stay at the regular fifth? You know, that kind of thing. And so just whatever sounded the best. And so I liked that actual, you put it perfectly. I liked the painting of the picture for me.
Uh,
And it just kind of grew from there, you know?
hmm. Man. Dude, so did you, I know, like on the big album, Jesus Freak, there's a
Yeah.
couple songs there. Um, is it Colored People? Is that the name of the song?
There is a colored people on there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one has like really cool percussion. Is that you playing?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I thought that was a song, and then there was another song. I think it's In the Light. I
Yes.
think that one has kind of like almost like a rock ska type vibe to it.
Yes.
Hey man,
Yeah.
it's a little man coming in. Hey John. That's what we say in the channel. You never know. A little person
That's
might
right.
run in the studio. Actually,
Little man.
my favorite thing in this studio is there's a little sign in the doors coming into the studio, and it says Daddy's Music Studio. That's my favorite thing in the whole studio.
That's cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
That's cool. I'm a little, my kids are a little old for that now. Mine are all grown, so I can't do that.
oh man, yeah, yeah. Well, as you know much better than I do, it goes by quick, right? So
Way too quick.
I now am in the teenage. My youngest is 9, but my older one just became a teenager, so he's 13, and then my daughter's 11. So, you know,
Bro,
we're
let me tell you something.
days.
It goes by way too fast. As a matter of fact, a month from yesterday,
Okay.
my youngest daughter and last daughter is getting married. I've got 3 girls,
Wow.
and they're all about to be married. So
Wow.
the last one gets married in a month.
Man.
So yeah, it goes way too fast. Hang on to it for dear life, bro.
Oh man, I'm trying, man. And that, oh, you mentioned the daughter thing and getting married. I'm just like, I'm trying to be her
Ugh.
world, man, because I don't want her to forget about me. I want her to be daddy's girl, you know. But I
And you
know.
know what? Unfortunately, she will forget about you. Unfortunately.
I know, man. I know there's no preparation. You could try to prepare, as they say, but you just do your best. You just do the best you
Yep.
can. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
It's all you can do. Love on them, point
yeah,
them to God, and that's all you can do.
yeah, yeah. That's it. That's it, man. Wow, that's awesome. So I don't even know where we were at. We were talking something
We
about
Yes, if it was percussion based on that record,
okay.
it was me.
There's
Now we did bring in different drummers.
okay.
I played drums on few songs, actually 2 or 3 songs. Um, but all the percussion is me. All the programming is me.
Okay.
Um, and
Is
let's see
that
what else.
so
But like I said,
are those is that real percussion on those 2 songs, or is that programmed? How did you
mhm.
do that?
No, it's all real. Yeah, it's
Okay.
all the percussion is all real. The drums, depending on the song, is 50-50. Like
50/50.
for example, between you and me, the song between you and me is programmed.
Okay.
But like Jesus Freak is all live. So
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
just
And it
depends on the
sound
song.
okay. Got it, got it. Did you play drums on Jesus Freak?
Yeah.
Nice, dude. I think that's everybody's favorite song. It's just so raucous, man.
Well, the reason why I could is because I'm so loose, and
Yeah,
that's such a loose song. It's not something that's super technical. And for drums, as a drummer, I'm a feel guy. So
got it.
I'm not a technical chops gospel guy, right?
Right.
And so that song is it's just sloppy, and
Yeah, yeah.
that was that just kind of ended up. It ended up to being where I wasn't going to play it,
Okay.
but it ended up being like the demo was like, oh shoot, this is good. Let's just keep this.
Demo lust, right? Oh man, as they
Pretty
call it.
much, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Dude, I get
yeah.
that's a real thing, man. It's a hard thing for me too. It's like and I think about it whenever I'm putting a song together, whether it's for myself or
Hmm.
someone else, I'm always like, sometimes I'm just hurrying up, got the ideas and hurry up and put it down. And in my mind, I'm almost like, maybe I should be a little cautious about the mic and the placement because I know I'm probably gonna fall in love with it. But it's just catching the lightning in a bottle or trying to.
No question.
Yeah,
Yep.
man.
And
Dude,
there's something to be said for both. There's something to be said for both. But like, yeah, it's one of those things where if there's a certain element of speciality, if that's even a word,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
then you just that's what happened with us. Now most songs we
Okay.
ended up changing from the demo and everything. As a matter of fact, the funny thing is the Jesus Freak song, the very first thing that you hear on that song is
Uh-huh.
from the original demo that was
Okay.
done with Toby's vocal and a guitar. And we took that from a cassette, sampled it, put it at the front of the song, and then punched into the real song.
Oh, wow. So what will you say
Yeah.
cassette? Was he using like a 4-track or something?
Well, on the song demo itself, when they wrote the
Mhm.
song demo was just a guitar and a vocal into a cassette recorder. And
Really?
what we did was we just took that very first piece of
Yeah.
that cassette and sampled it, put it in, and then we obviously produced the whole song out. And
So that
that
makes
the
sense,
regular
right?
song came.
It has this kind of like going from a radio to the more higher fi
Yeah,
sound. So yeah, yeah.
correct. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Man, that
So
is
yeah,
cool.
that was kind of how that worked. And
Yeah.
but there's William, there's all kind of those little stories of what we did, and
Yeah.
the like even the interludes and all that stuff started. The interlude stuff started taking on a life of its own, and all that stuff. It's crazy.
Wow. So do you think that the studying the Afro-Cuban and whatnot, how did that have any influence on songs like In the Light and how you went about in any production or just your percussion background? Did you bring
Oh
any of
yeah,
that stuff in there? Like whose idea was it to do the ska type feel like In the Light?
that just kind of it wasn't really anybody's. it wasn't really anybody's idea per se, just kind of having an evolution to get to that point. Now,
Yeah.
I will say this at the same time, we all like, do you remember this OC Supertones, the kind of the ska gospel band, not gospel band, but Christian gospel ska band?
I don't know if I do. OC tones,
OC Supertones.
super tones. Okay, it sounds
Yeah.
vaguely familiar, but I'm not sure.
They were, this might have been a little bit before your time, but anyway, there was like a Christian ska band called the Supertones, and we
Okay.
liked them. And it's kind of, as the song kind of evolved in that direction, we were honestly, that whole record, we were just trying to grab a hold of the reins and hang on, because we
Yeah.
knew that we didn't know how big it was, but we knew we were on to something. We didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So these songs would start taking shape almost on their own.
Okay.
And then, and so it would evolve in that direction. Then we're like, dude, that kind of sounds like an OC Supertones type song. Yeah, we should make it. And then we'd start to kind of embellish it in that way to some degree,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
We weren't trying to go for a ska type song, put it that way.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha. Well, so I want to back up briefly when you talked about being in school and minoring in the Afro-Cuban. Did you, after you got out of school, you moved to Nashville, did you continue any studies in the Afro-Cuban percussion?
No. And there's a story behind that. No, I didn't, because I got so involved and immersed in production.
Okay.
Because in '94 we started shortly after. See, what I did was I actually went on the road as the drummer for DC Talk originally, and then I transitioned. We got a regular drummer, and then I transitioned to being the percussionist on tour on the Jesus Freak stuff.
Okay.
And then when the Jesus Freak record, on the first Jesus Freak tour, then after that tour, the Jesus Freak record started blowing up, and at the same time, we had started Goatee Records,
Okay.
and which was me, Joey, and Toby.
All
Joey
right.
Elwood started Goatee Records, and that started to take off. Well, I had to come off the road because I was producing a lot of the artists that we would find because we didn't have money. So I was kind of by default the guy that did that. And
Okay.
so I didn't. To make a long story short, I didn't have time to study Afro-Cuban stuff.
Right.
I still played, but you know, as I learned later, and I'll tell you a story real quick, but as I learned later, the techniques evolved over those years, and I didn't really keep up with them as much. Now I played, like I said, and I played drums and that kind of stuff, and I would do that kind of thing, but I didn't stay up on the technique.
Okay.
Like, put it this way, back in the '80s, a regular Cuban tumbao
Yeah.
is much different than it is now, as you know,
Yeah.
much different. And so I will say this, where that's concerned, the pandemic hit. I was on tour with Mercy Me, and the pandemic hit, and we got cut off on March the 10th.
Okay.
So from March the 10th on, I started to realize, wait a second, we might be in for a long haul here.
Yeah.
I'm going to be off the road. I'm not going to be doing stuff. I'm going to be at home. I said, I've got to find something to do or I'll go nuts. For the first time since college, I went back and I started studying the techniques, and I actually got a teacher. I got a teacher to go back, who's younger than me. He's younger than both of us. And I went back and got a teacher, and I took online courses with a teacher that has taught me so much in the last year and a half to 2 years that it's been unbelievable.
That's
Unbelievable.
Cool. That's cool.
And my chops now, from a percussion standpoint, are better than they've ever been because of him.
Wow. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not really a traditionalist. I do stick by a lot of tradition, but I often tell people when they're learning, at least if we're talking about the Cuban percussion, like the congas or the bongos or whatnot, is the reason I always harp on the Cuban thing is because that's where the instrument comes from. And, you know, so those particular people have taken it to a high level because it was centrally focused within the culture or subcultures, you know, so that's anything in life, right? Anytime somebody has done it for decades and centuries, they're going to elevate it to a certain level, you know. There's lots of schools of learning percussion, you know. Now you have Motown sound, you have all different types, but as far as the facility is concerned, there is such a large breadth of music. And then, and then there's the Puerto Rican aspect, where the adoption and acculturation of the music, because it's like, Cuba and Puerto Rico, it's like, as far as
Hmm.
percussionists, a lot of, interconnections. So, but
Yes.
yeah, I for me, it's not so much about being the tradition, although there's a
Yeah.
respect that should be there, but it's also just the facility, man. I mean,
Hmm.
learning
Yeah.
rudiments, learning the sound, learning how to get a certain sound. You got guys in
Yeah.
Cuba that have nothing, man, that will play on a drum that we would consider subpar, that'll make sounds,
Hmm.
man, that you're just like, what in the
Sound amazing. Yeah, they sound amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, they sound absolutely amazing. The thing that I was always even in making records and producing records, when it came to percussion, the thing that I was always that I always tried to incorporate and that I was always fascinated by was, because I always loved Cuban music. Ever since I started studying it in high school and college,
yeah,
I was always fascinated by the traditionalism of the Cuban music and the
yeah,
sounds and and the technique that they would use. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to try to take some of that and kind of plant it into pop music.
yeah,
So there's a lot of stuff even on the Jesus Freak record that is there's traditional type tumbals per se
yeah,
on the congas
yeah,
that are kind of morphed into a
yeah,
pop setting. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect
So
sense.
like for example, I love doing things like taking things like traditional African kashishis or something,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and even though that's kind of a shaker, making it incorporating it into a pop song. I did that the other day with a country song, and it
yeah,
sounded phenomenal, but
yeah,
yet it had this unique thing about it. It was like, yes, it was a shaker or whatever, but it was like, that's not exactly like a shaker, you know what I'm saying?
right.
So I've always liked that kind of incorporation
Yeah,
of traditional type stuff and bringing it to a pop. I think that's where my strength is. I'm never going to be a traditional, Pedrito Martinez type player or Giovanni or any of those guys. I'm
yeah,
never going to be that, even though I love that and I
yeah.
study that and I listen to it for enjoyment and
Mhm.
sometimes inspiration. I'm never going to be that. I'm not going to have those kind of chops. I can't hear music like they do from that perspective. But I love taking, you know, a certain type of traditional type of beat
Yeah,
and try to incorporate it into an R&B song or a groove oriented song or whatever.
right,
So
right,
that's
right.
always been my thing.
Yeah, that's another there's another level of, you know, skills that's needed for that, right? And
Mhm.
there's a genius in that as well. And when you think about, guys like Marvin Gaye, there may be some, even if we were to say, okay, well, some of the songs might sound simple. Obviously, we know his singing ain't simple, but the
No.
songs may
Yeah.
sound simple, but the fact that this no one had done it yet, like they created it, and those grooves
Hmm.
that they were making, some were learned and some were not learned, but the grooves that they were incorporating within that soul music, man, and just creating a whole new thing. That's a whole nother world. And for me, it's something I always kind of took granted. At least the first half of my career, I kind of took it for granted, because I came up in like a small, when I started playing percussion, actually, after I started studying Afro-Cuban Puerto Rican music, I just started playing in this gospel church, and I took for granted a lot of the stuff that I was doing and a lot of the stuff that the other guys were doing and we're just coming up with. And so for me, it was always natural to take a tumbao and to take, say, the last two open notes of the four and the and a four and one, and just create a whole nother groove out of that. And then, the heel
Hmm.
toe stuff, and to create all these other grooves out. To me, that was natural, right?
Yeah.
Everybody does that. But then as I found out that's a whole nother skill set, to be able to take this over here and transcribe it into something else,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so teaching that and trying to is a whole nother avenue. And that's something that I'm
Hmm.
realizing now, because for me it was often a blind spot, even in talking about it in tutorials, because to me it's like everybody does it. So, you know, if
Yeah.
it's kind of like having a math teacher, right? And it's easy for them. And what happens is they begin to skip steps because you think, well, this is something that's simple and everybody gets. So, you know, later
Hmm.
on, once I realized that, I was able to kind of go back and say, okay, well, what is at the foundation of all of that? And honestly, just even improvising and giving yourself the permission to do all the stuff that you were saying. Some people won't even give permission. You see,
Hmm.
I hear questions like a lot of times, like, what do you think I could play in this song? Or you think a tumbao would go good in this song? Or do you think such and such would go good in this song? It's like, why not? I don't know. Try it. See what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
You make a good point. Give yourself permission to screw it up. That's
exactly.
where you're going to learn. Give
Exactly.
yourself permission to screw it up and just try it, you know. And that's a lot of I've found that a lot of people, and I'm not a solo guy. I'm
Hmm.
not a good soloist. If I have to solo, I'm uncomfortable doing it.
Hmm.
But you just have to kind of jump off the cliff and just go for it and be okay with sounding like crap
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, because that's how you learn and that's how you feel. That's how you realize if you listen back sometimes, if you're recording it or whatever, you go, oh, that actually sounds good. Now take that and we'll put it with such and such, you know. And so, and I've also learned that Cuban music, with the congas and the bongos and all of those being the basis of the foundation of the beat,
Yeah.
it's very different than pop music because drums are the foundation of the beat. And the older I've gotten and the more I've learned about traditional percussion and congas and so forth, timbales even,
Hmm.
the more I've learned that to incorporate that with a kit in a
Yes.
pop setting is more about what you take away rather than what you add,
Then
if
what
that
you?
makes any sense.
Oh,
You
that.
know, so if you're doing palm tip stuff all the time and making things sound busy in a normal situation on the congas without drums, most of the time you don't necessarily always need the palm tip stuff.
That's right.
Maybe it's all only just the accents, boom, dip,
Yeah.
boom, boom. You know,
Yeah.
so I've learned that less is more. You know,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, you know, because a lot of that you bring up a good point. The Marvin Gaye stuff, all that stuff, as masterful as it is,
Yeah.
the reason why it's so widely accepted is because people can relate to it. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying?
Yes.
But
Yes.
I fully think that people like Pedrito Martinez, who is a savant,
Yeah.
the reason why he's not a huge star is because people can't relate to that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
You know,
Yep. Yep.
no,
Exactly.
nobody can play like him. Nobody
Yeah.
can play like him. You know,
He is a musician's musician, right? You
no
know,
question, no
and
question. But
I
then,
think
but then you have Madonna. You have Madonna who can't really sing, and she's got major hits because any person walking down the street feels like they can sing along with Madonna. You
yeah.
know, I'm convinced that that goes with any type of music. The simpler, because we as musicians are the one percenters. You
Yeah.
know, we like the sophisticated stuff because we hear it differently. Most people,
Right.
they listen to music for an emotion, you
Right.
know, and they
Right.
want to be able to relate to it, and they want to be able to sing along a lot of times. And
Yeah.
so I learned early that less is more. You know, my dad used to tell me when I was playing drums, he said, "Boy, kiss it." And he first said it, and I was like, "Kiss it." He goes, "Yeah, keep it simple, stupid."
Ah,
And
yeah. Yeah.
so
I've heard that before. That's right. That's right.
so
Uh,
that's what I used to. That's, you know, I still go by that mantra to some degree. You know, I'm like, okay, let's dumb it down, and you know, and let's make it to where people can really relate to it. So
yeah,
I
man.
think there's a lot to that.
There
There's a
really
lot
is.
to musical space.
There really is. There really is. I'm a huge fan. You mentioned Lenny Castro. I'm a huge fan of Lenny Castro, Luis Conte. Those guys,
Yes,
and they just it's incredible. First of all, their timing is just impeccable. But
no question.
what they can do is it's like you're telling a story. You know, I think that's the biggest thing for me that I ever learned was having patience. After all, there's a lot of fundamental technique that needs to be there, like, you know, timing, dynamics, understanding a rhythm, you know, but then telling the story, you know, and not being afraid to craft a theme around that story and a story.
Yeah.
What do you say? What is it called in cinematography? It's show, don't tell, right? I think it is. And
Yes. Mhm.
that's the same thing in music. Sometimes, you know, you have all of these tools that you can bring, but if we've already, like, if I have a rhythm, like you mentioned, if I have a rhythm and it's like boom, boom, bing, boom, boom, bing, I can go boom, 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 bing, but maybe it's not needed right now, right? But then I can go
Mhm.
off, but I might need to come back. Daga, diga, do, boom, boom, the ding, boom, boom,
Yep.
mm, and now the audience gets it and understands. And so when you come back to that theme, you have a resolve, you know, so you're telling
Yes.
story. And for me,
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing to do. But you know, but man,
It's restraint.
yeah,
It's restraint.
right. Yep,
And
yep.
it's I equate it. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. I equate it to a great jazz saxophonist. A
Mm,
great like a John Coltrane, for example, could play. Now you not let's assume that nobody knows who John Coltrane is,
mm-hmm.
but yet he's got the skills that he does, right?
Yeah,
So John Coltrane could play Mary Had a Little Lamb. Everybody knows that melody, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then and then a regular high school or college saxophonist that's just average plays the
Mm-hmm.
same melody.
Yeah,
But there's a huge difference between the two. They play exactly the same thing,
yeah,
but there's a huge difference between the two. To me, that jazz guy, that John Coltrane, when you hear it, there's something about it that you go, there's something a lot deeper there than what we're hearing. That's the thing. That's the language of music to me that I love. You know, that's
right.
the restraint. And then that's when you get further down, deeper into the song that he may just do something just a little different. Than you go, oh, that was nice, man. And then he goes right back to that theme that you were talking about. You know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that kind of stuff.
You know, and yeah, you're taking everything seriously, but you're not taking yourself too seriously, you know? For me,
Yes.
like as a percussionist, you know, like a shaker, for instance, one of my big things is if you're gonna play a note. Now, I'm not perfect all the time, so sometimes I might not be in the right headspace, but if you're gonna play a note, if you're gonna play an instrument, if you're gonna play a song, then give it, like, make orange juice out of it. Squeeze every little thing you can, you know, out of it. So,
Hmm.
and a lot of people can pick up a shaker and go back and forth. A lot of people can do that. But now to
Yeah.
create all of these nuances with it is a
Hmm.
whole nother thing, as opposed to just playing, well, I only get the G. Gee, I wish I could play more than this shaker. So you're just sitting there like, I could do this in my
Hmm.
sleep. Yeah, but the guy that's playing acoustic guitar, he's speeding up a little bit, he's slowing down a little bit, he's getting a little louder, he's getting a little softer, and you might want to go there with the inflections in the vocals of the vocalist, you know,
Hmm.
and you might want to add a little accent or a little splash in the shaker. That is the stuff that people notice, and to me that's where the love is, right? You know,
Yes. Yes.
conviction. It's like, hey, I'm not going to waste your time, I'm not going to waste my time. If I'm just going to play a shaker, well, it's going to be the best shaker that I can possibly shake, and I'm going to pay attention to every detail,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
I totally agree with you.
yeah,
The thing about that is, I mean, let's face it. I mean, let's just go ahead and acknowledge the elephant in the room. As far as I'm concerned, we're percussionists.
hmm
We're not necessary, right?
yeah, yeah,
At least in the music that we do, worship music, pop music, R&B music, country music, rock music. Those are all the music that I'm in. I'm not a Cuban guy. I'm not a Puerto Rican guy.
right,
I'm not a salsa guy. You know,
right,
now I would love to play in a salsa band, but that's not my thing, right?
right,
So for the music that I'm involved with, I'm not necessary.
right.
I am. You know, you made the equation of the you equated the music with the cinema the film industry.
hmm
I'm a special effects guy.
right,
You know,
hmm
I make things better, but they don't necessarily need them.
right,
You know, not always. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
So I agree with you. It's that human nuance and that human passion and love that you put into that stuff that people may not understand, but they feel it and they get it. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I agree with you 100%. You know,
yeah,
I am, if I'm in a band and they're replacing people or
yeah,
dropping people, I'm
hmm
the first to go,
yeah,
you know? If I'm the producer and I'm dealing with a band of guys that has a percussionist in it and I have to get rid of them, guess who the first one that I'm going to have to let go? Percussion, you're out,
right,
you
right,
know?
hmm
So it goes back to what you were saying earlier. You can't take yourself seriously.
Yeah.
It's music.
Right.
It gives people joy. It gets people through different emotions. You can't take yourself too seriously with that.
You can't. It's a weird balance, right? Is because you have to take it serious because we should, right? But at the same time, it's like, yeah, but I'm playing bongos. You know what I mean? I'm playing the shaker.
Right.
At the
Yeah.
same time, it's kind of like, and then there's a whole nother element, like, well, I get to do this, But
Yes.
yeah, man.
Yes.
Oh man, a percussion life wrote yes. So that's cool, dude. Eric Perez, man. You the man, brother.
I
Love you.
love him. I
Yes.
love him. I
Yeah,
love him.
yeah, yeah.
Dude, let me tell you something. I've never talked to him. I want to talk to him. Eric, if you're hearing this, I want to talk to you at some point because I feel like we have a lot of stuff in common, but I love the stuff that he does.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. His tone on those freaking drums sound amazing.
Ridiculous.
I watch him all the time from afar. He doesn't know that. He does now, but I love him, man. I think he's great. I think he's great.
Yeah. Yeah, he Eric Perez was one of the guys that helped light another fire under me to get back to taking my channel seriously again. Cause I was doing a lot of other production stuff and I was doing a lot of ministry work too. And then I started kind of like, I need to get back on the channel. And this was like around 2018, end of 2017. And then next thing you know, Eric Perez, Percussion Life, he just started his videos like every week. We were getting better and better. And
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a good place of life. And you probably know all about this much better than I do. You get to a season where the collegial inspiration and competition is like, you love it because it's like, thanks, man. You really inspire me. It's like another brother in the gym. You're working out. Dude, you look
Yeah.
great, man. And it's like, man, I want to look like
Yeah.
so and so, but it's not like the 21-year-old version of so many of us where it's like, he looks good, but I'm going to look better. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, he looks great. You look like a racehorse. I want to be there too, So it's just,
Yeah.
so watching his channel grow, it really helped to inspire me to kind of take it, the channel a little bit more seriously. But yeah, dude.
Let me tell you something. He's done a phenomenal job. I've learned some things, including some patterns from him. I hate to admit it, as an old guy and as an old percussionist, but I've learned some stuff from him. He's doing a great job from a quality standpoint. I mean, the dude is, and from what I can tell, now one of these days we can talk about this. Maybe the three of us should get on one of these one day. He likes Christian rap music.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. From what I can gather, he likes Christian rap music. So I was like, okay, I'm in on this dude. I like this guy, man. I like this guy.
Yeah, man. What do we call it? What do we call
he's
it?
Dope.
What is the community called, man, in Christian hip hop, man? Is it
CHA, Christian hip hop. It's the CHH. They do it with the CHH thing. And I want to say he's a fan of oh shoot, who was it that
he just wrote Andy Mineo.
That's who it was. Yes, he likes Andy Mineo. Yes, I knew it was one of the Atlanta guys, or used to be Atlanta. Yeah, man. I got a lot of love for Eric, man. Love you, Eric. You're the man, brother. You're the man. I like it.
Yeah, dude, man. Yeah, we could have something going on here, man. We got a few Christian percussionists, in the house. So that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. Listen, let me tell you something. I know that I said earlier, I'm a really private guy and I enjoy my privacy, and that's why I don't post a lot on Instagram. I'm more of a voyeur where that's concerned as far as that thing goes. But and I don't have a YouTube channel and that kind of stuff. But I've always been, especially as I get older and being the elder statesman, what I feel like I am in kind of the percussion world, especially for Christian music, which is not saying anything. But I've always been one of these guys that I would love to and want to connect and network with like-minded guys like yourself, like Eric, and because there's not a lot of it. It's almost like the early days of Christian hip hop. There wasn't a lot of us. We all knew each other, and we were like, how come we're not working together? How come we're not doing this? How come we're not sharing trade secrets? How come we're not doing this, that, and the other? So, I would love for people to reach out to me because I don't know really who to reach out to. Like I said, I don't really reach out to many people, but I would love to network with guys that are like-minded like this,
Yeah.
that's in the future type of stuff, and we don't necessarily even have to work together. We can, that'd be great. We don't have to, but I would love to just hear, for me personally, I would love to hear like what some of the things that you do, William, that, that I don't necessarily do, or I would love to learn from some of the things that you may have learned that isn't necessarily common knowledge, or that kind of stuff. The older I get, the more I want to learn stuff.
Yeah, man. Wow. Yeah. And that's the way it should be, right? So you're continuing to lead the way in that. So, but that is,
Wow.
yeah, dude. And I tell you what, Nashville is one of my cities, man. I love Nashville, and I wish I could get there more often. And I'm looking forward to, things returning to some kind of normalcy and
Yes.
getting to Nashville. I
Yes.
tell you what, I have a few bucket list places that I have not performed at, and one of them is the Ryman. I think that's everybody's bucket list, right? But that's like I love the old Ryman. That is like, man,
It's phenomenal.
oh man, what a room, dude. Just the acoustics, the history. I love that place, man. That's on my bucket list. That and Red Rocks, I think, is everybody. The Red Rocks is just like, what a place. But those two places are like my bucket list that I have not performed at that I would love to.
And let me tell you, both of those places are everything that you think they are, and
Really?
then some.
Ah,
Yes.
man. I bet.
Both of them are unbelievable. It's phenomenal. And I've both played and obviously gotten to see shows at the Ryman,
Yeah.
and it's different, equally unbelievable. I
Wow.
saw Al Green in the
Oh,
Ryman auditorium, and it was unbelievable.
oh man. That had to be something.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was phenomenal. Now he didn't have a percussionist, but it was still amazing.
Oh
So
man.
okay, so I've got a question for you though. I've got a
Okay.
question for you, and maybe if Eric is still, he can like type in and tell me his favorite. Who is your favorite all-time percussionist, hands down?
Ooh, that's a tough one,
If you
dude.
had to choose one, who would it be? And I have one. I've got one, and I would love to know who Eric's is, because this
Oh,
kind of, as a producer guy,
yeah.
this is the kind of thing that tells me a little bit about where you come from musically. It tells me a little bit psychologically about yourself.
Okay. So to make it easier on me, there's the heart bias, and then
Okay.
there's who I would pick, kind of biased, but also because I just love their playing. So I mean, I love
Okay.
both of these particular people, the first two that come to mind.
Okay.
But I would have to say Luis Conte. I would probably say Luis. Luis is my dude.
Yeah.
Listening to him, growing up listening to him, the dude knows his music of his country. He knows the tradition, but he
Yeah.
also knows and understands how to be a chameleon.
Yeah.
Now, watching, I played with Luis Conte for the first time I played with him. I had some drums
Mm.
that I ordered for him to
Oh.
play on, and I played with them for a little bit, for a few weeks before he got to the event. And when he started playing, I was like, this is what it's like to be in the presence of mastery. But it wasn't that he was doing something like that I hadn't seen before. It's just the way he tuned the drums. First of all, his ear,
Yes.
that was the
Yeah.
first lesson I got. That guy, I was like, okay, his ear is phenomenal. And I found out later he played guitar and sang and all that. And so I was like, okay,
Hmm.
wow. But then his timing. So he would play
Hmm.
just like a simple tumbao, and I could hear that by itself,
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, other than that, Sheila E. is what got me started.
Oh.
Sheila E. got me started. When I finally saw, I wanted to learn how to play drums. I started off in the hip hop. So I started off wanting to be a rapper and a dance choreographer. That was my dream. Okay. And the music. And so and then I started playing drums later, percussion, mostly percussion. And I got drum set way later, but percussion. I saw Sheila E. play live on TV one time. It was like the Alma Awards or something in the late 90s. And she was the reason I pressed buy when I went to the store, to actually buy congas and start my journey. So,
That's
that's
crazy.
that's a bias for Sheila E. But I would pick Luis Conte. It looks like Eric said Giovanni Hidalgo.
Yeah.
And for me, Giovanni to me is like Michael Jordan. It's like, if you're gonna talk about basketball, we don't even need to mention him, or Michael Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't even need to mention. But
Giovanni is like, there's him, and then there's everybody else. Yes, I agree. Yeah, Giovanni's the guy. I even have a full nothing but Giovanni playlist on my phone and my Apple iTunes or whatever. But if I had to choose one, it would be Paulino. Because of the music that I love and play. Paulino's the guy for me.
Oh, that's man. He played with everybody, man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And let me tell you something. The thing that I've studied over the years and didn't realize it even as a kid, but studied later over the years, is the nuances in just the two Michael Jackson records, the Off the Wall and Thriller stuff, is phenomenal, man. It's just the nuances, the stuff that he doesn't play is unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Just the way it speaks and what he plays and where he puts things and stuff. It's just, to me, he is just, for pop music, R&B music, that kind of stuff, which is what I grew up on. Wow. He's my guy, man. And here's the thing. I love the hands of Lenny Castro. I love, like you said, the feel of Luis Conte. Yeah. All those guys. But for me, what speaks with the music, Paulino, man, good gosh, he's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And
there's so many. You had mentioned Pedrito Martinez earlier. I obsess over his playing, man. I mean,
I do too. Oh
my goodness. I
was watching a video yesterday. It's unbelievable.
I am constantly, every 2 weeks, I do another search, Pedrito Martinez conga solo, to see if there's a new conga solo. Because I don't know if you saw the NPR Tiny Desk, the Pedrito.
Yes, it's unbelievable.
That solo, that's one of the best solos I have ever seen. As far as like drums out, everything out, music out, and just the conga player, that is one of the greatest solos I've ever seen. Oh, and I'll tell you who, rest in peace, man. Raul Ricao was my guy too.
Dude. Love him. Love all the Santana stuff. Love him.
Dude,
I love him.
The energy that guy had, his ability to take a rhythm and just take you on a journey. Like he was one of the first, that was probably one of the first DVDs that I bought, was with him and Carl Parasso, and who I love.
Yeah.
But
yes,
that solo, he had I can't remember which DVD it was. It might have been one of the Santana DVDs, but he did this 5-drum solo, and that is one of my favorite solos. I think I studied the mess out of it because it just sounded like music by itself.
Yeah.
I didn't need anything else, But
very melodic. Yeah, very melodic. And you know what, honestly, and I hate to take a left turn, but on that note, the melody of the drums like that,
yes,
just with 3 drums is what Eric is really good at.
Yes.
What I think, for me, Eric makes those 3 drums sound so melodic to me. That's one of the reasons why I love what Eric does. The other person that I love is Alex Acuna. Now that I grew up with him as a kid, loving the stuff that he played on, because he played on a lot of Christian records also.
Yes.
I don't know if you know that. Yeah. He played on a ton of Christian records.
As a matter of fact, so where I grew up not far from where he used to go to church and play. That was Church on the Way, Jack Hayford, I believe. So it was.
Oh yeah.
Who was the gentleman that was really big? Ron Canoli. So he did a lot of Ron Canoli stuff. So that, I'm pretty sure that was Church on the Way. But so that was near the Van Nuys area, Southern California. And I grew up like maybe 10 miles down the road. So we didn't go to church very often. But when my dad did take me, we'd either go to that church or we would go to like John MacArthur's church or maybe Andre Crouch's church. But usually it was John MacArthur's, Jack Hayford. And so Alex Acuna, Ron Canoli, who's the bass player from Mexico. Is he from Panama or is he from Mexico? Famous bass player. And his son played drums with
Oh, Abe Laboriel?
Yes. Abraham Laboriel. Yes. So all those guys, and Alex Cacugno is playing with him. So all those old albums, dude. And the flutist, who was the flutist? He was really big. Did a lot of those Christian albums back then with Ron Canoli. Can't remember his name. He was a flutist that he was playing that whole group.
I'm not sure.
And I think they had a group, it was like Koinonia.
Koinonia. That's what I was talking about. That's the group that I grew up listening to.
Yeah,
those guys were unbelievable.
Man. Oh, dude, that music is gorgeous, man. That music is gorgeous.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah,
no question.
The percussion is just beautiful. But Alex Acuna had this album called The Rhythm Collector. I don't know if you had heard of that. That was one of the first ones that when the DVD started getting big. And I remember, man, that DVD was like $50 or $60, man. I burned that DVD up, man.
Yeah, I loved all of that stuff. And I don't know how I gravitated as being, you know, I'm put in a box of being a white guy, but I've got a lot of Indian, meaning Native American, in my bloodline and stuff. But as a guy, I mean, I didn't grow up with Cuban or Puerto Rican blood flowing through my veins. I don't know how I became so taken with all of that kind of thing, other than the fact that my dad was a jazz musician growing up and that kind of stuff. But I just always gravitated towards all of that stuff. You know, it's phenomenal.
Well, you know, the jazz thing is interesting because they're the same they come from similar worlds, you know, and even when you listen to like the second line stuff or the street stuff, you know, and the clave that it comes from a similar clave, you know, and just that sound. The older that I get, actually, the more I start diving into the old jazz, like, you know, 30s, 40s, 50s. That stuff, man, to me is just like there's so much information in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, and it sounds, when I hear that old jazz and then I hear the old Cuban music, it's there. Of course, the guys, they were all playing together historically, even when you read about the different players, they were all playing together. But maybe that's a connection somewhere. It was listening to that jazz, you know. But and the tone of the drums.
Could have been.
That's another thing is don't get me wrong. I love the contemporary stuff now. I love the sound. I love drums. I love percussion. But I love if we're talking about drum set, I love tone. I'm a big timbre guy. I'm a percussionist, right? I'm a big timbre guy. So I love hearing the open tone of drums. I'm not afraid of that. I get stuffing towels. I get hearing air out of it, especially when you're producing a song. But sometimes letting it ring open, using an old half skin, dude, man.
Yep. Let me tell you something. When I'm in it now, obviously not a live setting because I'd use a whole different set of heads. But when I'm playing congas in a recording session, if we're working on a song where I'm playing a percussion congas on a song, I'm tuning to the song. Like I tune the drums to the song in certain intervals because I'm the same way. I want that. I like it when the drums sound in tune to me. Now it may be, you know, it may be off. The intervals may be off, which gives it a little bit of it gives it a little bit of a rub sometimes. You know, if the dominants are a 1 and a 5, I may tune to a 1 and a 4.
Yeah.
But to give it some rub a little bit, but it's still in the same key.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of stuff. Obviously, you can't do that on every song when you're in a live situation, and using different heads or whatever. But I think that's huge to me, and that's what I think I feel like is a little bit lost in some of it's a little bit lost in some of the contemporary stuff. More so than the traditional old stuff. Some of the you mentioned some of the old stuff. And I didn't even know why back then, but my dad used to have old Cal Tjader records.
Okay.
Used to love Cal Tjader. He and I at the time I loved the percussion guy, and I didn't realize it was Pancho Sanchez. Yeah. And so Pancho Sanchez, I grew up thinking this guy's unbelievable, and he's a tone guy. You know, does he have the greatest chops in the world? Arguably, no. But he's such a great tonal guy, you know.
Dude, his tone is ridiculous. Yes. Yeah. That's true, man.
To play with somebody like Cal Tjader, man, you've got to have great tone. You know, if you're gonna play with Cal Tjader, he ain't no joke.
No. Those old albums, man. My father-in-law is a big Cal Tjader guy, fan, And I tell you, those old albums are just phenomenal, dude. They are great.
Oh yeah.
And speaking of Giovanni Hidalgo, that famous conga, one of the most famous conga solos was a Cal Jader tune. I think it was, I'm trying to think of the name. I can't remember it. But it's a, in fact, no, it's not Giovanni Hidalgo. It's another gentleman, but Giovanni talks about it. That's what it is. And I'm trying to remember what the name of the song is. I have it in here.
You got to send me that song. You got to say, I'm sure I probably heard it, but you got to send me that song because anytime I have stories like that with connected to songs, I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, dude, it is. It's in here. Insight. I think it's Insight. So that's on the Talking Verve, Roots of Acid Jazz on the Cal Jader.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Insight is the name, and the guy I can't remember the name of the percussionist. He
Eric probably knows it. Eric Perez knows all that stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. He does. The guy had, unfortunately, the percussionist had a pretty tragic history, but that conga solo on there is just ridiculous, man. I mean, just the direction that he takes it. Now he takes his time and takes it whatnot. But Giovanni Hidalgo was one of the first guys I heard talking about that conga solo in that song. But yeah, dude.
Yeah. Well, have you heard, speaking of solos, have you heard Pancho Sanchez's new album? The one that his newest one.
Yeah.
He won a Grammy. I think he won a Grammy for it, bro.
Did he? Just recently.
It's legit. Yes. It's really, really good. And he's got a couple of solos that, you know, could we play it? Yes, we could. Yeah. If we practiced it enough and, you know, picked it up, it's absolutely playable. But that's, to me, what's the genius behind it. It's simple enough and it's melodic. And boy, some of his solos on that record, are so good, man.
Yeah, yeah.
So good.
I love melodic. That's what drew me to the congas is I love how you can play it also as a melodic instrument. You know, you can even, I don't know if you probably do this too, is like, so once you've tuned your drums and you're on a set, some songs, there might be one particular conga, every time you hit it, it's a little jarring. So you might stay away from that particular conga on that song, or you may hit it in a way where you mute it. And because you mute it, mute out some of the transients, and it ends up being in that key of that song, or you could play the melodies that you like. So for me, sometimes I'll take a mallet, a really, 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 really soft mallet, and play on the drums if I have a few congas with the bongos, and then it becomes almost like a wood xylophone type sound. You know, but like a marimba, but that's what I love about
that's actually a really good kind of what do they call that, a life hack or a music hack. One of my music hacks is if I'm in a section, a down section where I'm either supposed to lay out or be real soft or something, I just break out into a soft bacateo or something, you know, where everything's muted. You know, but I need to think about doing something like what you're talking about. That's kind of actually kind of a cool idea.
Yeah, the mallets are really cool, man. I love doing that. Sometimes I'll play with the hand and maybe one mallet, but I started doing that a lot, like when I was playing in a lot of gospel, contemporary gospel. Sometimes I have like a slower ballad, and then I would play and realize the congas that I had that were tuned lower would actually ring out, depending on the room, like a marimba. And so now I was able to play little lead motifs in the song. So, I mean, for me, I mean, obviously, depending on who you're playing with, they might not want you stepping onto their toes and just play the percussion, you know. but if it sounds good, you know, it sounds good. So,
hey, you know what, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. We're sound effects people. We're sound effects guys. We're supposed to enhance what's going on. If we don't, then we're not doing our jobs. You know.
Yep. Experiment. So, if it works, it works. If not, you go, okay, well, it didn't work. I know what not to do next time. Boom.
That's true. And you got plenty. You got back there in the background. You got plenty to experiment with, bro. I'm telling you right now. Shoot. Dang.
Yeah, that's you know how it is, man. You go into Lowe's and you see something, or Home Depot, and you know you go to Target, whatever. Always tapping on something. Like, I can make an instrument out of this, you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've often wanted to, and I can't find one. I want one. I don't have one, but I've often wanted, and I'm not a builder. I'm not good with building, making things or anything, but I've always wanted to get a kata. I've always wanted one, and I don't have one. Do you have one of those?
I do. I have a few. I have a few katas. Are you talking about like the bamboo wood with the slit?
Yeah,
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 yeah. When you hit them with the stick. Yeah, it's a very Cuban. It's a
yeah.
very Cuban Wawanko type thing.
Dude,
I want one of those.
we'll talk offline, but I may be able to get my neighbor to make you one.
I noticed the thing that he made you also. I was jealous. I was like, why can't I have a neighbor like that? Shoot,
I know, right? It's like, man, yeah,
dang.
those are. I talked to him about possibly making us collaborating and making some tongue drums because I just love those slick
Oh
tongue
yeah,
drums. But
yes.
yeah, dude, a kata will be simple. We could do that, man. Yeah.
I would love to have a kata, man. I'm sure Eric probably has one. He's probably got a few of them. He needs to mail us a couple.
Yeah, yeah, there
You
you
know,
go.
Frick, man. I could use that in pop stuff. I mean, I
Yeah,
love the sound of that. The sound of that and some of the pop stuff. It's
yeah,
almost like it's almost like the side of a timbale.
yeah.
You
Cascada.
know,
Yep. The shell. Mhm.
doing the Cascada thing. Dude, I could use that big time, man. Shoot, that'd be awesome. I
Yeah.
did that on a Kelly Clarkson song one time. Did a
Did you?
Cascada on the timbale, and they were like, it's a little bit too ethnic. I was like, all right, cool.
They were like, chill out with the kata, huh? Wow. Man.
They were like, nah, that's a little much, man. And what it was we were doing a American Woman, the song American Woman that was it's not a Lenny Kravitz original, but he was the
Right.
one that made it kind of famous in the pop world.
Yep.
And she did a version of that, and yeah, and it was the one that we did that we did
The CMTs?
on the yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was doing kind of a version of that, and they were like, "Nah, we don't," because I did the recording too. I do a lot of stuff for her because when I was on the road with DC Talk, um, her band director was our keyboardist in DC Talk, so
Okay.
that's my connection with her, and so
Ah,
I've become so my good friend, one of my best friends is her MD, and so I've done a bunch of stuff for her show, and I do a
okay.
lot of stuff on her recordings and that kind of stuff, and so yeah, they were like, and he was producing that song. He's like, dude, I love all of this stuff, man, because I loaded him up with like 12 to 15 tracks of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, man, I'm going to use it all, except for I'm not going to use that sticky thing. He called it a sticky thing. I'm
Sticky
not
thing.
going to use that sticky thing. And I was like, all right, cool, man. So he took that out and used everything else. It was crazy. I mean, there were cowbells and freaking everything in there. It was cool. But
Man.
yeah, I would love to have a kata, man. That would shoot. I'd use that thing on all kinds of stuff.
Ah,
You
man,
know?
that's cool. So, hey, man, we're going to end the broadcast, but what I want to do is if you have something you want to shout out, somebody you want to shout out to, or you got a project going on now that you may want to, shout out on the channel, go
Yeah.
ahead, man.
Well, let's see. You know what? The first thing that comes to mind is feel free to reach out to me. I don't have a private Instagram. I would love to talk to guys. I would love to connect with guys. I would love to learn from guys because I'm not the teacher. I'm not the maestro. I would love to learn from guys. I'd love to collaborate. I'm working with honestly a country artist right now
Okay.
that's doing really well. Our band, I'm in a band actually,
Yeah.
and the band is the guy's name is Brent Loper. He's the artist, phenomenal guy, one of the best songwriters I've ever been around. And the keyboardist is Winona Judd's keyboardist.
Okay.
The drummer is Clint Black and Dolly Parton. The guitarist is also with Kelly Clarkson and Mandisa.
Wow.
And let's see, the bass player is from Alison Krauss.
Dang,
So I'm low man on the totem pole, man. I'm
that
low
is
man on.
no, you're
I'm the
not
low
the
guy.
low man. You're not the low
Trust me.
man.
No. Believe me when I tell you, I'm the low man on the totem pole. So
Wow.
we're working on some of his stuff. We've been doing some live dates. We just got finished doing a couple of live dates recently, and we're working on some recording stuff. So that's fun because it's something that's not normal for me. I didn't
Yeah.
grow up with country music.
Okay.
So I'm in kind of this country pop band that
Yeah.
I get to bring my kind of influence into, and it
Right.
makes it really interesting and cool, and it's extremely musical. That's what I love about it. So that's that, and I'm just if anybody, here's the thing, and I'm going to say it right now for the first time here, and forgive me, Eric, I don't want to take any work away from you, But I'm to the point in my career, William, that if anybody wants to work together, work on stuff or whatever, send me stuff.
Yeah.
Send me tracks.
You
I'll
hear it,
hook them
guys.
up. Send them
Send
back.
tracks. Yep.
Send
Yep.
them back. I'm not asking for money. I don't need money. I'm good. I just like to work. I just like to be creative. Let's just do stuff. Even if it's bad, I
Yeah.
don't care. Let's just work on stuff, man. I like
Man.
that. So I know that was long. That was a long
No,
version of
look,
what you just asked, but
that was perfect. You heard it, guys. Send him. He's and you got a studio right there in your house
yeah,
there, right? You can send
yeah.
tracks to. That's awesome.
It doesn't look like yours. It doesn't look like yours, but it does work.
That's awesome, dude. Well, see, the way I see it, man, is like there's you have a lot of guitarists, there's a lot of drummers, there's a lot of bass players. For me, it's like I even, like I collaborated with Eric. I've collaborated with other
Yeah.
percussionists. I've collaborated with Luis Conte as far as percussion. I mean, for me,
Oh,
it's like, well,
I'm
everybody has
jealous.
their own spin on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, there
Mhm.
might be something that I might not play, and I can't record on everything. You can't record on everything. Eric can't. Luis Conte, Richie Gajate, these guys can't record on everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, you might be the guy for whoever's watching this and be like, no, I'm going to
Yeah.
call Todd. And then you develop a relationship. Boom. Works out for their
Yeah.
song. So, yeah, I see it as,
Why don't like 3 or 4 of us all get together virtually and do a percussion drum thing, and
yeah,
just see what happens. Almost like it's almost like a traditional Cuban thing. It doesn't have to be traditional Cuban,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
how they just trade stuff around and they start beating around on stuff. I love that stuff, man. We should
Yeah,
just do something like that, man.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well,
That
don't
kind
tell
of
me
stuff would
early,
be
'cause I
fun.
that means I will tell you. I'll send you a track then, and then tell you, okay, just turn on your iPhone or whatever camera you have, record yourself, send me the track, send me the video, and we'll put it up on YouTube as a collaboration, dude.
Hey, I ain't scared, bro. I ain't
All
scared.
right, that's all I need to hear.
I ain't scared.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I ain't trying to ask for anything in return either, man. I ain't trying to ask for nothing in return. I ain't scared.
Oh man. Well, dude, it's been a great honor and a pleasure. I mean, dude, I mean, you're God's creation, regardless of your career and all that. So you're special and unique. You are a unicorn. We all are special and unique. But seriously though, your music, your production, I mean, from the Katinas to Grits to DC Talk, man, it's a lot of music that's been a blessing to a lot of people, myself included. Got me through
Thank you, man.
got me through deployments, man. Got me through some tough times, dude. So, you know,
Jennifer Knapp. Jennifer Knapp.
man, some of that music got me through some serious military deployments, man. So I appreciate all of that stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We had a good time doing it, and it's a blessing now as I get older to see and to hear how it affected people's lives, man. Because we didn't know what we were doing. We just were
Yeah.
making music that we liked. You know what I mean? And so to hear that it was a blessing to somebody else or it affected somebody positively, that's what music to me is about, right there. You know.
Man, man. Yeah, that's awesome, man. All right, man. Well, we're going to end it on this. Thank you, everyone, for watching. This is something that I want to continue to do. So just be on the lookout for more live interviews, and then we'll have Todd back on in the future as well, man. So thanks for coming on, Todd. Appreciate all of you.
Thank you, William.
God bless you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you, and I'll see you soon.